Our political director and Washington bureau chief, Rick Klein, is here with our latest poll with Ipsos. And this race, Rick, I mean, it is as close as ever.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Our ABC News Ipsos poll has Kamala Harris just out this morning in 49-46 lead over Donald Trump. That's just a tick tighter than last week when we had the lead at 4 points, but it's all well within the margin of error. And narrowing into the 7 battleground states, guess what? Nothing changes. An identical lead, 49-46 across the 7 battlegrounds. But inside the individual battlegrounds, we still see a little bit of a different story. These are our 538 polling averages. Harris leading in Michigan and Wisconsin, but by less than a percentage point. Right now, trailing narrowly in the polling averages everywhere else, including Arizona. That's 2.5 points. But again, all of this is within any polling margin of error, and there's new polls even out this morning that would suggest a tighter race, even if that's possible here. And there are signs of discontent everywhere, particularly among voters for Donald Trump. But among all voters, 74% say that the country is on the wrong track going into Election Day. That includes half of Harris supporters, and wait for it, 98% of Trump voters say we are on the wrong track as a country. And 60% of voters say they are still dissatisfied with the candidates. And we finally found an area of bipartisan unity. 61% of Harris supporters and 57% of Trump supporters agree that they are dissatisfied with the candidates they are voting on this week.
Wow. And Rick, as for the battleground states, what are the candidates eyeing as their likeliest paths to victory at this point?
Yeah, and you heard Selena lay it out a little bit, but if the polls lined up exactly where things are in the Electoral College, if the polls are right, which is a big if, you'd have Donald Trump winning right now. 287 electoral votes, that's more than 270. But the polls, of course, are often off a little bit. So here's the scenario that Selena was talking about, the blue wall. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, if they all go for Kamala Harris, that is 270 electoral votes exactly. That means the presidency for her. For Donald Trump, a couple of different paths, but the likeliest, let's say he carries Nevada and Arizona, where he's been leading in the polling averages, Georgia and North Carolina in the South, historically more Republican. He just needs one more state, and it could be any of the big 3. Pennsylvania, the likeliest and the biggest prize. That is the biggest battleground, and it is close to a must-win as we see for both candidates. There's agreement on that this year as well.
And Rick, we were talking about this behind the scenes this morning, that poll out of Iowa that now shows Harris leapfrogging, leading Trump. I mean, 3%. What can we glean from that? Yeah,
well, for starters, remember where Iowa landed last time. That was not particularly close, about an 8 or 9 point win for Donald Trump. And it's possible that this poll is on to something powerful. It could be an outlier, it could be off. But if it's right, not just about Iowa, but about some other upper Midwestern states like Wisconsin and Michigan, if we start to see women break more heavily toward Kamala Harris, that might change the landscape on election night. We'll have to wait and see, Janae.
Very interesting. Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah, fascinating numbers.